They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But what if you spent 20 years making it ice cold? What if you were 7 years old when you watched your father's mistress push your pregnant mother? What if you saw the blood, heard the screams, and then watched your father call his lawyer before calling 911? Harper Westfield didn't just witness a crime that day. She made a promise that someday everyone would know the truth. So she spent 2 decades building weapons. Not guns, not knives, knowledge, evidence, power. She became everything her millionaire father never expected. Smart enough to expose him, strategic enough to destroy him, patient enough to wait for the perfect moment. And that moment, his wedding day, in front of 200 guests, in the same house where it all began. This is the story of a daughter who turned trauma into strategy, who spent her entire adult life preparing for 90 minutes of truth, who learned that justice isn't hot and passionate. It's cold, precise, and absolutely devastating. Stick around, because what Harper did to her father will shock you, but what she discovered about herself. That's what will stay with you long after this story ends. The envelope was cream-colored, expensive, heavy stock, the kind that announced money before you even opened it. Harper Westfield stared at it on her desk like it might detonate. Outside her corner office window, Manhattan stretched in all directions. Glass and steel, ambition made visible. She had worked for this view, 27 years old with a salary that made her mother's eyes water. Investment analyst at Caldwell and Morrison, the kind of firm that moved markets. But none of that mattered right now. The envelope sat there, waiting. She opened it, closed it, opened it again. Like checking if bad news changes the third time you read it. It didn't. Richard Westfield and Valerie Ashford request the honor of your presence. Her father, getting married, again, to the same woman he had married before. Some legal complication about annulments and second chances. Harper didn't care about the details. She cared about the date, 3 weeks away. She cared about the location, the Westfield estate, the same house where everything broke. She cared that after 15 years of silence, after abandoning his daughter like yesterday's trash, Richard Westfield thought she would come celebrate. Oh no, Harper, no. Natalie Brooks stood in the doorway, Harper's best friend since college. Lawyer, sharp enough to cut glass. One look at Harper's face told her everything. He didn't, Natalie said. He did. Natalie crossed the office in 3 strides, designer heels clicking on hardwood. She took the invitation from Harper's hand, read it. Her jaw tightened. You're not going. Harper didn't answer. Harper, you're not going to that man's wedding. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Something in Harper's voice made Natalie pause. They had been friends for 9 years, roommates in college, bridesmaids at each other's theoretical future weddings. Natalie knew Harper's tells, the too calm voice, the steady hands, the absolute stillness. What did you do? Natalie asked quietly. Harper smiled, not a happy smile, a smile like winter. I've been preparing for this my entire adult life. She opened her desk drawer, pulled out a folder. Not thin. 20 years of documentation doesn't fit in a thin folder. Natalie took it, flipped through the first few pages, her lawyer brain processing. Her eyes widened. Harper, this is everything. His business deals, Valerie's social climbing, financial records, property holdings, shell companies I traced through 5 different states. The Singapore deal he closed last month, built on fraud. I can prove it. How long have you been doing this? Since I was 17, when I chose my major, when I picked my career, when I took this job specifically because it intersects with his world. Harper's voice stayed level, calm, like describing the weather. Every company I evaluated, every deal I structured, every connection I made, it was all practice. For this, Natalie sat down slowly, the folder heavy in her hands. You're going to destroy him. I'm going to tell the truth, finally, in front of everyone who looked the other way, everyone who let him rewrite history, everyone who accepted his version where my mother just fell, where it was all an accident, where he was the victim of a vindictive ex-wife. At his wedding. Where else? Where he thinks he's won, where she thinks she's finally legitimate, where 200 people who matter in his world will see exactly what kind of man he is. Natalie was quiet for a long moment. She had heard the story, Harper's version. Late nights in their dorm room, wine and tears and rage compressed into whispers. But hearing about revenge and seeing the execution are different things. Your mother, Natalie said carefully. Does she know? Harper's mask cracked. Just for a second. Just enough. Not yet. Harper, I know. I have to tell her. I will. But if I tell her now, she'll try to stop me. She'll say she doesn't want me consumed by this. She'll say she's moved on. She'll say it's not worth it. Is it worth it? Harper picked up the invitation again, ran her finger along the embossed lettering. Expensive. Everything about Richard Westfield was expensive. 20 years ago, I watched my father choose his mistress over his pregnant wife. Over me. Over the truth. He paid people to lie. He rewrote history. He got away with it. And every single day since then, he's lived in a world that believes his version. That's worth correcting. That's worth everything. There was something else in the envelope. Harper pulled it out. A family photo. Old. The edges softened with time. 4 people. Richard Westfield, younger, hair still dark. Catherine, Harper's mother, laughing at something off camera. And Harper herself, maybe 4 years old, on her father's shoulders. Everyone smiling. Before the crack, before the blood, before she learned that some people watch the world break and just stand there. He included this, Harper said quietly. I don't know if it was Valerie trying to be cruel or someone in his office trying to be nice, but he sent me a picture of when we were a family. What are you going to do? Harper looked out at Manhattan, at the empire of glass and steel and ambition, at the world she had built specifically so she would be strong enough for this moment. I'm going to the wedding, she said, and I'm going to show my father what his daughter became. Natalie nodded slowly. She had known Harper long enough to know that once she made a decision, arguing was pointless. Instead, she asked the lawyer a question. And what do you need from me? Background checks on 3 board members, the current structure of his company, and someone to bail me out if this goes worse than planned. It won't need bail. At worst, you'll be escorted out by security at a private event. That's not illegal. Good. Harper's phone buzzes. A text from a number she didn't recognize. I know you're coming to the wedding. We should talk. -V. Valerie. Harper showed Natalie the phone. She knows, Natalie said. Good. Let her know. Let her spend the next 3 weeks wondering what I'm going to do. Let her lie awake at night trying to figure out my plan. Let her feel powerless for once. Harper deleted the text without responding. 20 years ago, she had been powerless. A 7-year-old girl watching her world explode. Unable to stop it. Unable to fix it. Unable to make anyone listen. She wasn't 7 anymore. She wasn't powerless anymore. And in 3 weeks, everyone would know exactly what Harper Westfield was capable of. The photo triggered it, the way trauma always finds a door. Harper sat in her parked car outside her apartment building. Engine off, keys in her lap. She couldn't go inside yet. The memory had her pinned. She traced the scar on her palm. Thin, white, barely visible unless you knew to look. From the glass she broke that night. Forgotten in the chaos of blood and screaming and the sound that never stopped echoing. The crack. 20 years ago, the Westfield mansion. Late afternoon in October. The kind of golden light that makes everything look like a painting. 7-year-old Harper had been playing in the upstairs hallway. Her dolls lined up. A tea party. She gave them all voices. Made them talk to each other. The house was big enough that you could play alone for hours and never see another person. Then the voices started. Real voices. Adult voices. Rising. Her father's study. The door was open. Just a crack. Just enough. Harper crept closer, the way children do. Curious? Not understanding that some knowledge breaks you. Her mother's voice first. Higher than usual. Strained. How long, Richard? How long has this been going on? Catherine, you're being dramatic. I found the hotel receipts. I'm not stupid. I'm not blind. How long? Then another woman's voice. Younger. Sharper. Tell her, Richard. Tell her the truth. Harper reached the doorway, peeked inside. Her mother stood in the middle of the room. 7 months pregnant, her belly round under a blue dress. Harper remembered the dress. Her mother had been happy that morning. She had made pancakes. She had sung while she cooked. Richard sat behind his desk, the mahogany one, massive, expensive. Everything in that room was expensive. And standing next to him, hand on his shoulder, possessive, Valerie Ashford, her father's secretary, 29 years old, beautiful in a way that made Harper's mother look soft and worn. "Catherine," Richard said. His voice was tired, like this conversation bored him. "We'll discuss this later, when you're calm." "I'm calm. I'm perfectly calm. I want to know if you're sleeping with your secretary." "That's inappropriate language in front of, she's not here. Answer me." Valerie laughed. Actually laughed. "He loves me," Valerie said. "Not you. Not that baby you trapped him with. Me." Catherine moved toward Richard, not threatening, just moving, like she needed to be closer to hear this, to understand it. Valerie stepped between them. "Don't touch him." "Get out of my house," Catherine said. Her voice shook. "Get out of my house right now." "It's not your house. It's Richard's house. You're just living here until he decides he's done with you." Catherine's hand came up, not to hit, just to gesture, just to express the enormity of what was happening. Valerie shoved her. Hard. Both hands against Catherine's shoulders. A sharp, violent movement. Catherine fell backward. The sound. That was what Harper never forgot. Not a crash, not a thud, a crack. Like something breaking that could never be fixed. Her mother's head against the mahogany edge of the desk. Then silence. 1 second of absolute silence. Then her mother's scream. High and terrible and wrong. Then Harper's scream. She ran into the room, her mother on the floor. Blood, so much blood, spreading across the expensive carpet, her mother's hand on her belly, protecting the baby. Even then, even bleeding, even broken. "Mommy!" Harper dropped to her knees, her white dress soaking through with red, her hands trying to help, trying to fix, 7 years old and trying to fix the unfixable. Richard stood up, finally moved, finally did something. He went to Valerie, not his wife, not his daughter. He went to his mistress and pulled her away from the desk, pulled her toward the door. "Richard," Catherine gasped. "The baby, call someone, please." "Go to your room, Harper," Richard said, not to his wife, to Harper. "Go to your room right now." "Daddy, Mommy's bleeding." "I said go to your room." He had never yelled at her before. Harper froze, her hands red, her dress ruined, her mother bleeding. She ran down the hallway into your room, slammed the door, pressed her ear against it. Voices, muffled, her father on the phone. "I need you to come to the house immediately. There's been an accident. No. No police, not yet. I need you first." Not an ambulance, not 911. His lawyer. Harper didn't understand then. She would understand later, years later, when she was old enough to know that some people choose their story before they choose the truth. Eventually the ambulance came. Harper heard the sirens. She came out of her room, blood on her hands. Blood on her dress. A paramedic tried to talk to her, asked what happened. Richard answered for her. "My wife fell. She's pregnant. She was dizzy. She fell." The paramedic looked at Harper. "Is that what happened, honey?" Harper looked at her father. He stared back. His eyes said everything. Said, "Be quiet." Said, "Forget what you saw." Said, "You're 7 years old and nobody will believe you anyway." "I don't know," Harper whispered. "I didn't see." The lie tasted like blood. They took her mother away in the ambulance. Richard followed in his car. He told Harper to stay with the housekeeper. He didn't come back for 6 hours. When he did, Harper was still wearing the bloody dress. Nobody had thought to change her. She sat on the stairs, frozen, the blood dried brown. "Your mother is fine," Richard said. "The baby had to be delivered early. A boy, your brother. He's very small, but he'll be fine." "What happened to her head?" "She fell, Harper. Accidents happen." "But Valerie pushed." "Valerie wasn't even here. You're confused. You're upset. You imagine things. Your mother fell. That's what happened. That's what you'll say if anyone asks. Do you understand?" Harper nodded. 7 years old, terrified, covered in her mother's blood. She understood. She understood that her father was a liar. She understood that Valerie was dangerous. She understood that truth mattered less than money and power and the right lawyers. But most of all, she understood that some people watch while the world breaks. And she promised herself, sitting on those stairs in that bloody dress, that she would never be one of them. Harper blinked. Back in her car, 20 years later, her hands were shaking. She looked at them, steadied them, breathed. The memory was always there, always waiting. For 20 years, she had carried it. Every detail, every sound, every color, the blue dress, the mahogany desk, the red blood spreading. Some people say time heals. They're wrong. Time just teaches you how to carry the weight. Harper got out of her car, walked to her apartment. Clean, modern, everything in its place. The opposite of chaos. The opposite of blood and screaming. She had built this life specifically to be strong enough to face that memory. And now, finally, she was ready. Present day. Harper drove north out of Manhattan. The highway stretched ahead, trees replacing buildings, space replacing crowds. Connecticut. Her mother's house. The life Catherine had built after Richard destroyed the first one. Harper's hands gripped the steering wheel. 10-2. Perfect control. She had learned control early. When your world explodes at 7, you either learn to control what you can or you drown in chaos. The invitation sat in the passenger seat, mocking her with its expensive paper and elegant script. She should have called first. But if she called, her mother would hear it in her voice. The plan, the rage barely contained. 20 years of patience about to detonate. Better to show up, face to face. No time to prepare objections. The house appeared around a bend. Colonial style, white with black shutters, modest by Westfield standards, paradise by normal human standards. Her mother had married well the second time. Graham Sterling, investment banker, solid, reliable. The kind of man who showed up. The opposite of Richard Westfield. Harper parked, sat for a moment. Through the window she could see her mother in the garden, kneeling in the dirt, hands working the soil, tending roses. Catherine was 48 now, still beautiful. The pregnancy weight had never quite left. The scar on her temple had faded but not disappeared. If you knew to look, you could see it. A thin white line, a map of violence. Harper got out, walked across the lawn. Her heels sank into the grass. She should have changed shoes. Too late now. Mom, Catherine looked up, squinted against the sun, then smiled. The real smile. The one reserved for her children. Harper, I didn't know you were coming. Then the smile faded. Mothers always know. What's wrong? Harper held out the invitation, said nothing. Let the paper speak. Catherine stood slowly, brushed dirt from her knees, took the invitation, read it. Her face went very still. Oh. He sent it to my office, tracked me down. 15 years of silence, and he sends me a wedding invitation. Catherine handed it back, like it might burn her. Are you going? Yes. Harper, I'm going, and I'm going to end him. There, the truth, stark and simple. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Then she gestured toward the garden chairs. They sat, the afternoon sun warm, birds singing, everything peaceful and normal and wrong for this conversation. How long have you been planning this? Catherine asked. Does it matter? Yes. It matters if my daughter has been consumed by revenge for half her life. Harper looked at her hands. Clean now. No blood. No evidence of that day except the scar on her palm. I was 12 when I started researching his business. 15 when I decided what I would become. 18 when I chose my college major specifically to understand his world. 22 when I took my first job at a firm that could intersect with his empire. Oh, baby. Don't pity me. I made choices. I built a life, a good life. I'm not some obsessed, crazy person living in a basement surrounded by newspaper clippings. I'm successful. I'm happy. I'm just also ready. Ready for what? To make sure everyone knows what he did, what she did, to make sure the truth isn't buried under expensive lawyers and convenient accidents. to make sure Owen knows where he came from. At the mention of her son, Catherine flinched. Owen doesn't know? Owen thinks you fell. Owen thinks Dad just drifted away after the divorce. Owen thinks his birth was complicated but natural. You and I agreed. We protected him. Because he was a child. He's 20 now. Pre-med student. Old enough to know the truth. Old enough to decide how he feels about the man who caused his premature birth and then abandoned him. Catherine stood, paced, her hands twisting together. Harper recognized the gesture. Her mother always twisted her hands when stressed. 20 years and some things never change. I don't want you consumed by this, Catherine said finally. It took me 10 years to stop being consumed. 10 years of therapy and medication and Graham's patience. 10 years to build something new. To find peace. I don't want you trapped in anger. I'm not trapped. I'm purposeful. There's a difference. Is there? Harper, look at me. Harper looked up. Her mother's eyes were wet. Not crying, just brimming. What you saw that day, Catherine said softly. What you carried. I never knew how to fix that for you. I was so focused on surviving, on keeping us fed and housed and safe. I didn't see that you were breaking in a different way. I'm not broken. No, you're strong, terrifyingly strong, but strength built on rage is still built on pain. And when you destroy him, because I believe you can, I believe you have the intelligence and resources and will. When you destroy him, what's left? What fills that space? Harper had no answer. If you do this, Catherine continued, I can't stop you. You're an adult. You've clearly been planning this longer than I've known. But promise me something. What? Promise me you won't lose yourself in it. Promise me that when it's done, you will come back. That you'll build something with all that intelligence and passion besides vengeance. I promise. Do you mean it? Harper thought about the planning room in her apartment. Every surface covered with research. 20 years of documentation, financial records, property holdings, shell companies, evidence of fraud. Everything she needed to destroy Richard Westfield completely. Did she mean it? Would there be anything left of Harper after the revenge was complete? I don't know, she said honestly, but I'm going to find out. The sound of a car interrupted them. Harper recognized the BMW Owens car, a gift from Graham for his 18th birthday, paid for by the stepfather who showed up, not the biological father who disappeared. Her brother got out, tall, 20 years old. He looked like Richard, the same joie, the same dark hair, the same confidence in his walk. But his eyes were Catherine's, soft, kind. He saw Harper, grinned. Harps, nobody told me you were visiting. Then he saw the invitation on the table, picked it up before anyone could stop him. What's this? He read. His face changed. Wait, Dad's getting married? Who's Valerie Ashford? Silence. Heavy, weighted with 20 years of careful lies. Owen, Catherine started, but Harper interrupted. The same woman he was married to when you were born, before Mom, during Mom, after Mom, the woman he left us for. Harper, Catherine's voice held warning. He deserves to know. Owen looked between them, confusion turning to something else. Realization, the way puzzle pieces suddenly fit. What do you mean during Mom? Harper stood, faced her brother, the baby who was born too early because a mistress shoved a pregnant woman. He deserved the truth. He had always deserved the truth. Dad was having an affair. Mom confronted them. There was a fight. You were born premature that night. Emergency C-section. You almost died. Mom almost died. And Dad chose his mistress over all of us. Owen sat down slowly, the invitation in his hand. You're saying he was cheating while Mom was pregnant with me? Yes. And that caused, Mom, is this true? Catherine twisted her hands, her tells showing. Finally, she nodded. It's more complicated than that. It's not, Harper said. It's actually very simple. Dad's a cheater who became a liar, who became a deadbeat. And now he's marrying the woman he cheated with, and he has the audacity to send me an invitation. Owen stared at the invitation. His hand shook slightly. Why didn't you tell me? You were a child, Catherine said softly. What was I supposed to say? Your father's girlfriend pushed me and you were born 3 months early? How do you tell a child that? I'm not a child anymore. No, you're not. And maybe Harper's right. Maybe it's time you knew everything. So they sat in the garden while the afternoon sun moved across the sky. Catherine told her version. Gentle, focusing on the divorce, the custody battle Richard never fought, the money he paid grudgingly, the birthdays he missed. Harper added the parts her mother left out, the lawyers who made hospital staff change reports, the police who were paid to call it an accident, the social circle that closed ranks around Richard because money protects its own. Owen listened, his face cycling through emotions. Shock, anger, hurt, the loss of a father he barely knew but always hoped might return. I should have known, he said finally. All those times he canceled visits, all those birthday cards that never came, all those years of mom working 3 jobs while he lived in a mansion. I should have known he was just a bastard. Language, Catherine said automatically. No, he gets to be a bastard. He earned it. Owen looked at Harper. You're going to the wedding? Yes. What are you going to do? Harper smiled, not a happy smile, a smile like justice. I'm going to tell the truth. In front of everyone who matters in his world. In front of his business partners, and his society friends, and his new wife. I'm going to show them exactly what kind of man Richard Westfield is. Can I come? Owen, Catherine started. No, I want to come. I want to see this. I want to be there when she burns his life down. Harper looked at her brother, really looked. Not the baby born too early, not the child she protected from truth, but a man, 20 years old enough to choose. Okay, she said, you can come. They sat together as the sun set, 3 people bound by trauma, Catherine, who survived, Harper, who remembered, Owen, who carried the weight without knowing why, a family broken by violence and lies, but also a family stronger than Richard Westfield ever understood. Because they showed up for each other. They told the truth. They held the weight together. And that was something Richard Westfield and his expensive lawyers could never take away. Harper sat in her apartment, the planning room, midnight, couldn't sleep. Never could when the memories came this strong. The room was disguised as a home office, desk, computer, bookshelves, completely normal, except every surface told a different story. 20 years of documentation covered the walls. Not literally. Harper wasn't crazy. She was methodical. Everything scanned, everything digital, everything backed up in 3 separate locations. But she had printed key documents, spread them out, looking for connections, financial records showing shell companies, property holdings transferred through offshore accounts, the Singapore deal built on falsified environmental reports, board meeting minutes where Richard lied about projected earnings, evidence, clear, damning, illegal. Harper had spent 5 years gathering this, not just for revenge, for justice. There was a difference. Revenge was emotional. Justice was systematic. She picked up a file, the hospital records. These had been hardest to obtain. Medical privacy laws are strict for good reason, but there are always cracks, always people who remember, always someone willing to talk if you're patient enough. The emergency room admission from 20 years ago. Catherine Westfield, 28 years old, 7 months pregnant, head trauma, lacerations, emergency C-section performed. The original report noted inconsistent account of injury. The follow-up report, a Bayern, filed 3 days later by a different doctor, removed that language, changed inconsistent to patient reports fallen home. Harper had tracked down the first doctor. Retired now, living in Florida. He remembered. You don't forget a pregnant woman with a head wound and a husband who keeps interrupting the examination to correct the story. I wrote what I saw, the doctor had told Harper over the phone. Then administration told me to revise it, said the family preferred different wording. I was young. I needed my job. I changed it. Proof that Richard paid to rewrite history. Harper had a recording of that conversation. Legally obtained, single-party consent state. She had so much evidence. More than enough to destroy Richard's reputation. To trigger an SEC investigation. to dismantle his carefully constructed image. But evidence wasn't enough. She had learned that early. You can have all the proof in the world. If nobody's watching, if nobody cares, if the rich and powerful can just pay to make it go away. That's why the wedding was perfect. 200 witnesses, Richard's entire world, his business partners, his social circle, his new wife's family, everyone who mattered to him in one room. You can't pay off 200 people. You can't silence a crowd. You can't rewrite history when everyone saw the truth. Harper's phone buzzed. 3 in the morning. She checked. Natalie, you awake? Obviously. I finished the background checks. You need to see this. Send them. 3 files appeared. The board members Harper had targeted: Preston Carlisle, James Morrison, Stephen Blackwell, all men Richard had wronged in various ways. Stolen credit for projects, pushed out of promotions, quietly sidelined. Men with grudges. Men who would be happy to see Richard fall. Men who could be convinced to act if given the right leverage. Preston was the key. Richard's former business partner from 20 years ago. They had built the company together. Then Richard bought out Preston's shares at a criminally low valuation. Used legal tricks, made it impossible to fight. Preston never forgot. According to Natalie's research, he still owned a small percentage of shares. Enough to have a voice, not enough to have power unless someone gave him ammunition. Harper drafted an email, short, professional. Mr. Carlisle, my name is Harper Westfield, Richard's daughter. I believe we have mutual interests. I'd like to meet. She hit send before she could second guess. At 3 in the morning, she didn't expect an immediate response, but it came within minutes. I've wondered when you would contact me. Yes, let's meet. How about breakfast tomorrow? Tomorrow was already today. Harper would run on coffee and adrenaline. She had been running on coffee and adrenaline for 20 years. A few more weeks wouldn't kill her. She stood, stretched. Her back ached. She had been sitting too long, planning too hard. The obsession was dangerous. She knew it. Her mother was right. This consumption could destroy her as surely as Richard had destroyed their family. But she was too close now. Too close to justice. Too close to truth. Too close to making everyone see what she had seen. A 7-year-old girl watching her mother bleed. Watching her father choose power over family. Watching the world rewrite history because money talks louder than truth. Harper walked to the window. Manhattan at night. A million lights. A million stories. A million people fighting their own battles. She was just one person. One woman with a grudge and a plan. Maybe it wouldn't work. Maybe Richard would laugh it off. Maybe she would be escorted out by security and nothing would change. But maybe it would work. Maybe for once the powerful would face consequences. Maybe for once money wouldn't be enough to bury the truth. Maybe her 7-year-old self, bleeding in a white dress, could finally stop waiting for someone to believe her. Harper returned to the desk, pulled out her mother's medical records again, studied the photos, the x-rays, the documentation of trauma. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about validation, about standing up and saying this happened. This was real. You can't gaslight me. You can't rewrite this. You can't make me doubt what I saw. Her phone buzzed again. Owen this time. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about everything you said. Was he really that bad? Harper typed back. Worse, but you'll see for yourself soon. Good. I want to see. I want to understand why Mom worked so hard. Why she never talked about him. Why you look sad sometimes when you think nobody's watching. Harper's eyes burned. She blinked hard. Tears were weakness. She had learned that early. Crying doesn't fix things. Action fixes things. Go to sleep. Big day tomorrow. You too. But Harper didn't sleep. She worked. She planned. She prepared for every possible contingency, because this wasn't just one woman against one powerful man. This was decades of lies against one moment of truth. And truth needed to be armored, needed to be unassailable, needed to be so obvious that even Richard's lawyers couldn't spin it. Dawn came slowly, gray light creeping across Manhattan. Harper showered, dressed for battle, tailored black suit, simple jewelry, professional armor. She looked at herself in the mirror, 27 years old, successful, powerful in her own right, everything Richard Westfield had tried to deny her. And in 2 weeks, she would walk into his wedding and take everything from him. The thought should have felt good, should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like that day 20 years ago. Like standing in a hallway watching the world break. Like screaming and nobody hearing. Like being powerless and small and covered in blood. Harper closed her eyes, breathed, reminded herself she wasn't 7 anymore. She wasn't powerless. She had weapons now, knowledge, resources, allies, and most importantly, she had the truth. The hardest part wasn't what they did, it was what they didn't do. They didn't apologize, they didn't acknowledge, they just rewrote history and expected everyone to smile for the new version. But Harper remembered the original, and soon everyone else would too. The coffee shop was neutral territory, midtown Manhattan, expensive but not flashy, the kind of place where business deals happen over lattes and croissants. Preston Carlyle was already there when Harper arrived, 65 years old, silver hair, expensive suit, the look of old money mixed with old wounds. He stood when she approached, shook her hand. His grip was firm, assessing. "You look like your mother," he said, "not like Richard." Harper filed that away, a compliment from a man who hated her father. They sat, ordered coffee, made small talk about weather and traffic and all the meaningless things people say before getting to the point. Then Preston leaned forward. "Why now? Richard's wronged a lot of people over the years, but his own daughter reaching out? That's interesting timing." Harper pulled out her phone, showed him the wedding invitation. Preston's mouth tightened. Third marriage to the same woman. That's ambitious, even for Richard. "You remember Valerie." Everyone remembers Valerie, the secretary who became the wife, office gossip for months. Some of us wondered how your mother was handling it. None of us asked. Easier to look away. There was guilt in his voice. Harper heard it, filed it away. "My mother almost died because of Valerie. My brother was born 3 months premature. I watched it happen. I was 7 years old and I watched my father's mistress push my pregnant mother. Then I watched my father rewrite history." Preston was very still, the coffee between them cooling. "Are you telling me the fall wasn't an accident?" "I'm telling you that in 2 weeks at his wedding, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what really happened. And I'm telling you that if you help me, you can finally get what Richard took from you." "Which is?" "His company, the one you built together, the one he stole. I can give it back." Preston laughed, short, bitter. "Harper, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I'm an old man with a small percentage of shares. I can't take his company. You can if the board loses confidence, if major investors pull out, if the CC starts investigating his deals, if his reputation crumbles so completely that keeping him as CEO becomes impossible." She pulled out a folder, not her complete evidence, just a taste. The Singapore deal. Falsified environmental reports. Kickbacks to local officials. Clear securities fraud. Preston read. His expression didn't change, but his hands tightened on the pages. "Where did you get this?" "I'm very good at my job, and I've spent 5 years positioning myself to access this kind of information. Richard doesn't know his daughter works 3 buildings away from his office. He doesn't know I've been watching. He has no idea what's coming. This is enough to trigger an investigation." "I know, but investigations take time. I want immediate consequences. I want him humiliated, destroyed. I want everyone who covered for him to regret it. And then, when he's weak, when his board is desperate for new leadership, you step in, you take back what he stole. You save the company he nearly destroyed." Preston sat back, studying her, the calculation visible in his eyes. "You've been planning in this a long time. 20 years. That's dedication, or obsession." "Both," he smiled. "Not friendly, appreciative. I like you. You're what Richard could have been if he had a conscience. Smart, strategic, ruthless when necessary, but motivated by something other than greed. Will you help me?" Preston was quiet. The coffee shop hummed around them. Other people's conversations, other people's deals, other people's normal Monday mornings. "If I do this," he said slowly. If I help you destroy Richard, what do you get? Peace, that's it? That's everything. Preston nodded, like he understood. Maybe he did. Maybe everyone who Richard had wronged understood that sometimes destroying your enemy is the only way to sleep at night. I'm in, he said. Tell me what you need. Harper outlined the plan, the wedding confrontation, the evidence presentation, the viral video, the SEC tips that would arrive exactly when Richard was most vulnerable, the board members who would be ready to move, the careful choreography of destruction. Preston listened, asked questions, added suggestions. By the end of an hour, they had refined the plan, made it stronger, made it inevitable. One question, Preston said as they stood to leave. Your brother, Owen, Richard's son, how does he feel about this? He's coming to the wedding. He wants to see the truth. And your mother? Harper hesitated, her mother's face in the garden, the worry, the plea to not lose herself. She's afraid for me, but she won't stop me. Because she knows you're right, or because she knows it's pointless to try now? Both. Preston put a hand on her shoulder. Fatherly, the way Richard never was. Be careful. Revenge has a pattern. Even when it's justified, even when it's deserved, make sure you're ready to pay it. Harper left the coffee shop with an ally, a powerful one. Preston had connections, resources, credibility. With him supporting her accusations, the board would listen. The investigators would act. The media would pay attention. She was building an avalanche, and in 2 weeks it would bury Richard Westfield completely. Harper walked 40 blocks back to her office. Needed to move. Needed to think. Manhattan streamed past her, crowds and noise and the endless hustle of people chasing something. She thought about Preston's warning, about persimmon, about losing herself. Was she already lost? Had she been lost since she was 7 years old, covered in her mother's blood, watching her father choose lies over truth? Or was this how you found yourself? By standing up, by refusing to accept the world's convenient fictions, by demanding that someone, somewhere, finally acknowledge what happened. Harper didn't have answers. She just had a plan, and a date, and evidence that would crack Richard's carefully constructed world. 2 weeks, 14 days, 336 hours. Then everyone would see what Harper had seen. Everyone would know what Harper had known. Everyone would understand why she spent 20 years preparing for this moment. And maybe finally that 7-year-old girl in the hallway could rest. 4 in the morning. Harper's phone buzzed on, unknown number. But she knew, had been expecting this. The text was simple. I know what you're planning. We should talk. -V. Valerie. Harper stared at the message, deleted it, then reconsidered. Sometimes your enemies give you gifts without meaning to. Sometimes desperation makes people careless. She replied, Midtown Diner, tomorrow, 10 in the morning. The response came immediately. I'll be there. Harper didn't sleep after that. She showered, dressed, prepared for battle, because meeting Valerie Ashford wasn't just a conversation. It was reconnaissance, a chance to see what the enemy knew, what she feared, what mistakes she might make. The diner was deliberately casual, not a coffee shop where people had important meetings, not a restaurant where deals were made, just a diner, vinyl booths and formica tables and waitresses who called everyone un. Valerie was already there, 10 o'clock sharp. Harper saw her through the window, still beautiful at 49, but harder, the way people get when they realize the prize they fought for wasn't worth the cost. Harper entered, slid into the booth across from Valerie. Neither smiled, no pretense of politeness. You came, Valerie said. You asked. I wasn't sure you would. I'm curious what you want. Valerie twisted her coffee cup, her hands showing her age, manicured but thin. The way hands get when beauty is maintained through effort rather than youth. I want you to not ruin Richard at the wedding. Why would I ruin Richard? Don't play games. I looked you up. I know what you do. I know how smart you are. I know you've been watching him. And I remember you. That little girl in the hallway. You saw something that day. Something you shouldn't have seen. Harper's face stayed calm. Inside, her heart raced. Valerie just admitted it, not the assault, but the acknowledgement that something happened, something real, something worth hiding. What did I see? Harper asked quietly. You saw your mother fall. You saw an accident, a terrible accident that nobody wanted. That's not what I saw. Yes, it is, because that's what happened. Your mother tripped. She was pregnant and emotional and clumsy. She fell. It was tragic, but it was an accident. The gaslight was so casual, so automatic. Valerie had been telling this lie for so long, she might even believe it. My mother didn't trip, Harper said, each word precise. You pushed her, with both hands, against her shoulders. She fell backward. Her head hit the desk. I saw blood. I heard her scream. I watched my father call his lawyer before he called for help. I remember everything. Valerie's face tightened. You were 7. Children misremember. They imagine things. They get confused. I'm not confused. I'm very clear. And in less than 2 weeks, I'm going to make sure everyone else is clear too. Why, what's the point? It was 20 years ago. Your mother moved on. She remarried. She's happy. Why drag all of this back up? Because you never apologized. Because you never faced consequences. Because you pushed a pregnant woman and almost killed her baby, and then married her husband and lived in her house and rewrote history to make yourself the victim. I wasn't the victim. No, you were the aggressor. You were the other woman who destroyed a family. You were the violent criminal who committed assault and got away with it. Because my father paid the right people to look away. Valerie's composure cracked. Just for a second. Just enough for Harper to see the fear underneath. Please don't do this at the wedding. If you want to talk, if you want money, if you want an apology, I don't want your apology. I don't want your money. I want everyone to know the truth. And the truth will destroy Richard. Good. It will destroy me too. Better. Valerie's eyes filled with tears. Manipulative tears. The kind designed to create sympathy. Harper felt nothing. I have nowhere to go, Valerie said. If Richard's reputation is destroyed, if our marriage falls apart, I'm 49 years old. I gave him my best years. I have nothing else. You had somewhere to go 20 years ago. You had a choice. You could have walked away, found another job, another man, another life. Instead, you chose to destroy my mother's marriage. You chose to push a pregnant woman. You chose to become the second wife and pretend you did nothing wrong. I love him. You love his money. That's not fair. Fair. You want to talk about fair? My mother worked 3 jobs to feed us, while you lived in her house, while you wore jewelry bought with what should have been our child support, while you attended parties with people who called my mother crazy and vindictive. Fair died the day you pushed her. Valerie wiped her eyes, the tears real now, not manipulative, genuinely afraid. What do you want from me? Nothing. You already gave me what I needed. What? Harper leaned forward. You just admitted you remember me. You remember that I saw something. You're worried about what I'll say. That's confirmation. That's evidence. You're afraid because you know I'm telling the truth. Valerie's face went pale. I didn't admit anything. You admitted enough. Thank you for the meeting. It was illuminating. Harper stood, dropped $20 on the table, left Valerie sitting alone in the booth, looking small, looking afraid, looking like someone who just realized she gave away too much. Outside, Harper breathed. The midtown air was thick with exhaust and humidity. Summer in Manhattan, oppressive. But Harper felt light, clear, purpose refined. Valerie had given her permission. Not consciously, not intentionally, but by showing fear, by showing guilt, by showing that even now, 20 years later, she was still afraid of that 7-year-old girl who saw too much. Harper pulled out her phone, texted Natalie. Just met with Valerie. She's terrified. This is gonna work. Natalie replied immediately. Did you record it? No, but I didn't need to. Her fear is enough. She knows what she did. She knows I know. And now she knows I'm coming. Harper walked, not back to the office, not home, just walked, through Midtown, through the crowds, anonymous among millions. She passed a mother and daughter, maybe 7 years old. The daughter's hand was so small in her mother's hand, holding tight, trusting. Harper remembered that feeling. When she still believed hands that held you wouldn't let you fall. Before she learned that some hands push instead of catch. Some hands choose violence over protection. Some hands rewrite history to absolve themselves. But Harper's hands were strong now. Strong enough to hold the truth. Strong enough to demand justice. Strong enough to finish what her 7-year-old self started when she screamed in that hallway. 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks now. 10 days. Then everyone would see. Everyone would know. Everyone would understand. And Valerie Ashford would finally face consequences. The thought should have felt good, should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like inevitability, like a stone rolling downhill. Started 20 years ago, finally reaching the bottom. Justice wasn't hot. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't satisfying. It was cold, precise, patient. And Harper had been very, very patient. The Westfield estate looked exactly the same. 20 years later and nothing had changed. The same circular driveway, the same marble steps, the same oak door with brass fixtures, the same house where everything broke. Harper stood in the parking area. Navy dress, tailored, professional, hair pulled back, minimal jewelry. She looked like what she was. Successful, powerful, dangerous. Owen stood beside him. His first time back here since he was an infant. He didn't remember. Too young, but Harper could see him processing. This house, this wealth, this was what their father chose over them. "You ready?" Harper asked. "Are you?" "I've been ready for 20 years. They walked together. The valet didn't recognize them. Good. Harper wanted to be a surprise, a bomb that nobody saw coming. Inside, the house was transformed. White flowers everywhere. String quartet in the corner. Expensive catering. 200 people in cocktail attire. Everyone who mattered in Richard's world. And there, in the center of it all, Richard Westfield, 54 years old, still handsome, still commanding, still radiating that particular confidence that comes from never facing real consequences. He was talking to a group of men, business partners probably, laughing at something, completely at ease in his world. He didn't see Harper. Not yet. She worked the room. Strategic. Each conversation carefully chosen. First, Preston Carlyle, Richard's old partner, now Harper's co-conspirator. "It's time," she said quietly. Preston nodded. He had positioned board members throughout the room. James Morrison by the bar, Stephen Blackwell near the windows, all waiting for Harper's signal. Next, Diana Westfield, Richard's mother, Harper's grandmother, 76 years old, elegant in a way that money buys, cold in a way that's inherited. "Grandmother." Diana turned. Her face registered shock. Then something harder. "Harper, I wasn't aware you were invited." "I was. By my father. Apparently he's optimistic about reconciliation." "After 15 years of silence, you choose today to appear?" "I chose today because everyone's watching. Because everyone who enabled him is here. Because finally someone needs to tell the truth about what happened to my mother." Dinah's face went very still. "Your mother fell." "No, she was pushed. By Valerie. While 7 months pregnant. I watched it happen. I was 7 years old and I watched your son's mistress assault my mother. Then I watched him cover it up. Then I watched everyone pretend it was an accident. That's a very serious accusation. It's the truth. And in about 30 minutes, everyone here is going to know it." Diana's hand trembled slightly. She recovered quickly, but Harper saw it. Fear, guilt, the knowledge that she had enabled her son, that she had chosen family reputation over justice. "Harper, don't do this." "Why not?" "Because it will destroy him. Because it will destroy our family name. Because some things are better left buried." "Better for who? Not for my mother, not for Owen, not for me, just better for you, for Richard, for all the people who look the other way." "You're making a mistake." "No, I'm correcting one." Harper moved on. More conversations, more strategic placements. She had rehearsed this, every move calculated, every word chosen. The ceremony started. Everyone filed into the great room. White chairs arranged in rows. The same room where the assault happened. 20 years later, and they were celebrating in the room where Catherine Westfield almost died. The irony was crushing. Harper and Owen sat in the back, far enough to observe, close enough to act when needed. The music started. Valerie appeared at the top of the stairs. Her dress was stunning. White, expensive, completely inappropriate for a third marriage to the same man. But Valerie never did understand appropriate. She walked down the aisle. Richard watched her. He looked proud, possessive, the way men do when they think they've won. Harper felt nothing, no anger, no rage, just cold, clear purpose. The officiant began. Standard words, love and honor and cherish. Words that should mean something, and words that Richard and Valerie had already broken multiple times, then the vows. Then, Richard spoke first, about second chances, about finding true love, about building a future. All lies, but beautiful lies, the kind people want to believe. Then Valerie, her voice soft, emotional, talking about waiting, about patience, about finally getting her happy ending. Harper almost laughed, the audacity to stand in this room, in this house where she pushed a pregnant woman and claim happiness, claim victory. The officiant pronounced them married. Richard kissed Valerie. Everyone clapped. Harper stood. I'd like to say something. The room went silent. All heads turned. Richard's face when he saw her. Shock, fear, anger cycling through in seconds. Harper, he said, his voice attempting control. This isn't the time. No, this is exactly the time. When everyone's here, when everyone's watching, when you think you've won. She walked to the front. No one stopped her. 200 people too surprised to react. She picked up the microphone. The officiant stepped back, uncertain. 20 years ago, Harper began, her voice steady, clear, carrying to every corner of the room. In this house, in the hallway just over there, I watched my father make a choice. Richard moved toward her. Preston Carlyle stepped forward, blocked him, subtle but firm. Harper continued, my mother was pregnant, 7 months. She'd found out about his affair with the woman he just married. She confronted them. Right here, in this house. And that woman, that bride, she pushed my pregnant mother. Gasps, murmurs, the crowd shifting. Valerie's face went white. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. I watched her fall, Harper said. I watched her head hit that desk over there. The mahogany one. I watched blood spread across the carpet. I watched my father call his lawyer before he called 911. I watched him choose her over us. This is inappropriate, Richard said, his voice loud, desperate. Harper, you're clearly unwell. Security, I have proof. 3 screens descended from the ceiling. Harper had arranged this with the AV technician earlier. Paid well, he had been happy to help. The first screen showed hospital records. Catherine Westfield, admitted with head trauma. Emergency C-section performed. Baby born 3 months premature. The second screen showed police reports. The original report noted inconsistent account of injury. The follow-up report, filed 3 days later, removed that language. The third screen showed financial records. Payments to hospital staff, to police officers, to lawyers, all dated within a week of the incident. My father paid people to call it an accident, to change reports, to silence questions, because that's what rich men do. They rewrite history, they buy silence, they make inconvenient truths disappear. The room was dead silent, everyone staring at the screens, at the evidence, at the undeniable proof. But I remember the original. I was 7 years old, standing in that hallway, watching my mother bleed, watching her scream, watching my father do nothing. And I promised myself that someday someone would know the truth. Harper turned to Richard, to Valerie, both frozen, both knowing that 20 years of lies were crashing down. My brother was born that night, 3 months early. He almost died. My mother almost died. And you never apologized. You never acknowledged. You never faced consequences. Until now. Harper pressed a button on her phone. The final screen activated. Security camera footage. Grainy. 20 years old. But clear enough. Catherine confronting Richard and Valerie. The argument. The escalation. Valerie shoving Catherine. Catherine falling. Her head hitting the desk. Blood. Richard helping Valerie, not Catherine. The timestamp showing he waited 11 minutes before calling for help. The room erupted, voices overlapping, people standing, phones coming out, recording, photographing, the proof going viral in real time. Diana Westfield stood. Richard, tell me this isn't true. Richard's face cycled through options. Denial, anger, excuses. He settled on aggression. Everyone leave, now. This is a private event. Get out. But nobody moved. Because truth is magnetic. Because scandal is irresistible. Because everyone wanted to see how this ended. Preston Carlisle stepped forward. Richard, as a member of the board and a shareholder, I'm formally requesting your resignation as CEO effective immediately. You have no authority. I have evidence of securities fraud, the Singapore deal, falsified reports, kickbacks. I've already contacted the SEC. They'll be in touch Monday morning. James Morrison joined Preston. The board will vote you out. We have the numbers. You're done. Richard looked around, at his wedding, at his guests, at his world crumbling in real time. Harper, he said, almost pleading, why are you doing this? Harper walked toward him. Her 7-year-old self finally face to face with the man who abandoned her. Because you made me doubt myself. For 20 years, you made me think maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was too young to understand, but I wasn't wrong. I saw exactly what happened. And now everyone else does too. Owen appeared beside her, his first time speaking to his father in 15 years. You never wanted me. I was the baby that trapped you, the inconvenient son born too early. I spent my whole life wondering what I did wrong. Turns out I did nothing. You're just a coward who couldn't face what you caused. Richard looked at his son, at his daughter, at the family he destroyed. He had no words. Nothing could fix this. Nothing could rewrite this. Not money, not lawyers, not convenient lies. Valerie tried to leave. The crowd blocked her. Not violently, just surrounded. Everyone wanting to see the woman who pushed a pregnant woman. Everyone wanting to see what 20 years of playing the victim looked like when the truth came out. Harper and Owen walked outside, away from the chaos, away from the shouting, away from the world crashing down. They sat on the steps where they used to play as children. Owen had been too young to remember, but Harper did, before, when things were good, when fathers were safe, when families stayed together. The cicadas were loud, like they'd been 20 years ago, like they'd be 20 years from now, indifferent to human suffering. Harper had always envied them that. Owen was crying, quiet tears, processing, understanding, grieving a father he never really had. Harper put her arm around him, said nothing, just sat. Inside, the wedding was over. The marriage was poisoned. The truth was undeniable. Justice wasn't satisfying. It wasn't cathartic. It wasn't healing. It was just necessary. Like lancing a wound, like cutting out infection. Like finally making the pain visible so everyone could see why you hurt. Harper had carried this alone for 20 years. Now the world could carry it too. The video went viral within an hour. Security footage of Valerie pushing Catherine, Harper's speech, the hospital records, all of it spreading across social media, across news sites, across the world. Richard Westfield wasn't just a local scandal anymore. He was a cautionary tale. The millionaire who covered up assault, the husband who chose his mistress, the father who abandoned his children. Harper's phone wouldn't stop buzzing, reporters wanting interviews, old friends reaching out, strangers offering support. The attention was overwhelming. She turned the phone off, sat in her apartment. The planning room empty now. All the evidence used, all the weapons deployed, 20 years of preparation complete in 90 minutes. She should feel something. Victory maybe, satisfaction, relief. Instead, she felt empty, hollow. Like the revenge had carved out the part of her that contained everything else. What are you when the thing that defined you is done? A knock on the door. Natalie. She had a key. She came in without waiting for an answer. You okay? I don't know. Natalie sat beside her. Best friend since college. She had watched Harper build this plan, warned her about the bond, helped anyway because that's what friends do. The SEC opened an investigation, Natalie said. Richard's company stock dropped 40%. 3 board members issued statements calling for his resignation. Preston Carlisle is positioning himself as interim CEO. It's working exactly like you planned. Good. Valerie filed for divorce this morning. Apparently, Richard admitted to an affair with his new assistant. History repeating. She gets nothing in the prenup if infidelity is proven. You provided that proof. Good. Harper, look at me. Harper looked up. Natalie's face was worried. The kind of worried that comes from caring. You did it. You destroyed him. You got justice. But you look like someone who lost everything instead of won. Maybe I did. 20 years. Natalie, 20 years of my life building toward this moment. And now it's done. What do I do with all the time I spent? You live. You build something new. You let go. I don't know how. Then learn. Let me help. Your mom can help. Owen can help. You're not alone in this. Harper nodded, but the emptiness remained. The space where obsession lived, where anger kept her company, where the 7-year-old girl screamed and nobody heard. That girl could rest now, but Harper didn't know how to rest. She only knew how to fight. Her phone buzzed. She turned it on. One message from an unknown number. A letter, scanned and sent, handwritten, from Richard. Harper almost deleted it, then didn't. Curiosity maybe, or the need for closure, or just the habit of 20 years of studying her enemy. She opened it. Harper, I should have protected you that day. I didn't. I don't expect forgiveness. But you should know. What you did wasn't revenge. It was truth. Spent 20 years pretending it wasn't. You spent 20 years making sure no one could pretend anymore. You're stronger than I ever was. I'm sorry for what I took from you. I'm sorry for the father I wasn't. I'm sorry it took losing everything to say it. Dad. Harper read it 3 times, looking for lies, looking for manipulation, looking for some angle, some last attempt to rewrite history. But it felt genuine. The letter of a man who finally faced consequences, who finally understood what he'd destroyed. Too late. 20 years too late. But something. Harper didn't respond, didn't need to. The letter wasn't for her. It was for him. His last attempt at redemption. His last chance to feel like less of a monster. She deleted it. The gesture meaningless but necessary. Owen called, voice shaking. I changed my major, pre-med to psychology. I want to understand trauma. What it does. How people survive it. Because of you. Because you showed me that survival isn't just enduring. It's demanding better. It's refusing to let people rewrite your pain. Owen, thank you for telling the truth, for not protecting me from it, for letting me see who he really was. I spent 20 years with this hole in my life, this father-shaped absence. Now I know it wasn't my fault. It was his. That matters. They talked for an hour, brother and sister, bound by trauma but also by survival, by the choice to not let Richard Westfield define them, to not let his abandonment make them small. When Harper hung up, the emptiness felt different, less hollow, more like space. Space for something new, something besides anger. She called her mother. It's done. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. How do you feel? Empty? Is that wrong? No, baby, that's space. Space for something new. The revenge is over. Now comes the hard part, figuring out who you are when you're not preparing to destroy someone. I don't know who that is. Then we'll figure it out together. Come home. Stay for a while. Let me feed you. Let Graham bore you with dad jokes. Let yourself be my daughter instead of a warrior. Harper agreed. She needed that. Needed normal. Needed to remember what life felt like before trauma made her sharp and dangerous. She packed a bag, looked around her apartment. The planning room was empty. Evidence boxes recycled. Files deleted. 20 years of obsession erased in an afternoon. Tomorrow she would drive to Connecticut. Tomorrow she would let her mother take care of her. Tomorrow she would try to remember what rest felt like. But tonight she stood at her window, looking out at Manhattan, at the city that raised her, that hardened her, that taught her how to fight. She had won. The truth was out. Richard was destroyed. Valerie was abandoned. Justice was served, but victory felt like standing in a hallway at 7 years old, watching the world break, screaming for someone to fix it. She had fixed it herself. Spent 20 years building weapons, gathering evidence, preparing for battle. The war was over. She won. But what do soldiers do when the fighting stops? Harper didn't have an answer. She just had the rest of her life to figure it out. And maybe that was enough. Maybe choosing to live beyond trauma, beyond revenge, beyond the 7-year-old girl crying for help. Maybe that was the real victory, not destroying Richard, but reclaiming herself 3 months later. Autumn in Connecticut, the leaves changing, gold and red and orange. The kind of beauty that makes you believe in new beginnings. Harper sat on her mother's porch, coffee in hand, watching the world wake up. She had been staying here for 2 months, taking time, recovering, learning how to exist without rage as her compass. It was harder than destroying Richard, much harder. The news kept coming. Updates on his complete unraveling. The SEC investigation found multiple counts of securities fraud. Richard was facing criminal charges. His lawyers were negotiating plea deals. Preston Carlisle had taken over as CEO. The company was recovering. Employees kept their jobs. Richard had been surgically removed. The company survived. Only the tumor was cut out. Valerie Ashford had disappeared, divorced, broke, abandoned by the social circle that once welcomed her. Harper heard she moved to Florida, teaching yoga, starting over at 49 with nothing. Karma wasn't hot, it was just eventual. Diana Westfield had sent a letter, an apology. Too late, but something. Acknowledgement that she had enabled her son, that she had chosen family reputation over truth, that Harper had been right to speak up. Harper hadn't responded. Forgiveness wasn't required. Understanding wasn't owed. Some wounds don't heal. They just become part of you. Owen visited every weekend. He brought his girlfriend, a kind girl studying social work. They talked about trauma responses, about generational patterns, about choosing to break cycles. He was good, healing, building a life defined by what he chose, not what was done to him. Harper was still figuring that out. The front door opened. Her mother appeared. 2 mugs of fresh coffee. Thought you might want a refill. Thanks, Mom. They sat together. Comfortable silence. The kind that comes from shared history, from surviving together. I talked to your boss yesterday, Catherine said. She called here looking for you, no. What did she say? That you've been on leave for 2 months, that she understands you needed time, but that she'd love to know when you're coming back, if you're coming back. Harper had been avoiding this question. Her career, her life in Manhattan, the world she built to destroy her father. I don't know if I want to go back. Because of what happened, or because you built that career for the wrong reasons? Both. I chose investment analysis to understand his world, to get close to his empire, to gather evidence. It was a good career. I was good at it. But was it ever really mine? Catherine sipped her coffee, thoughtful. What would you do if you could do anything? I don't know. Teach, maybe. Help other people understand financial systems. Expose fraud. Use what I learned, but for something besides revenge. That sounds good, purposeful. It sounds boring compared to destroying a millionaire. Catherine laughed, real laugh, the kind Harper hadn't heard much growing up. Too much struggle, too much surviving. But now, 20 years later, her mother could laugh. Boring is underrated. I spent 20 years trying to get to boring. Boring is safe, boring is peaceful. Boring is coming home at 5 o'clock and making dinner and watching television and not constantly fighting. You make boring sound appealing. Because it is. When you've lived it through chaos, boring feels like luxury. Harper's phone buzzed. She checked it. A message from Natalie. New client, young woman, 25, looking for financial advice, but I think she's running from something. Reminds me of you. Can I give her your number? Harper showed her mother the message. What do you think? I think you're good at helping people who are hurt. I think that's a gift. I think you can use what you learned for something besides destruction. Harper replied to Natalie. Yes, send her my information. It wasn't a career decision, just one conversation. But maybe that's how you build a new life. One choice at a time. One small step away from who you were. One cautious move toward who you might become. The client's name was Emily. She arrived 3 days later. Nervous, overdressed, the way people are when they're trying too hard. They met at a coffee shop in town, not Manhattan, not corporate, just local, small, human scale. Thank you for meeting me, Emily said. Natalie said you might understand. Understand what? That sometimes the thing driving you forward is actually holding you back. Harper went very still. Recognition, mirror, the universe reflecting. Tell me more, Emily explained. Her ex-boyfriend, controlling, financially abusive. She had escaped, started over, but she was building her entire life around proving he was wrong, around showing she could succeed, on destroying him with her success. Sound familiar? How long? Harper asked. 3 years since I left, but 7 years planning it. 7 years saving money in secret accounts. 7 years preparing to run. 7 years of my life consumed by escaping one person. Harper saw herself, younger, angrier, still convinced that revenge was the same as healing. Emily, I'm going to tell you something I wish someone had told me. You can escape. You can succeed. You can prove everyone wrong, but if you build your entire life around destroying someone else, you never actually get free. You just carry them with you in a different way. But he deserves to suffer. He deserves to know what he did. Maybe. Probably. But what about what you deserve? Don't you deserve a life that's about joy instead of revenge? About building instead of destroying? About choosing what you want instead of running from what he was? Emily's eyes filled with tears, the recognition of truth, the way it stings before it heals. I don't know how to want things. I only know how to escape things. Then learn. Let me help, but not by teaching you how to destroy him, by teaching you how to build something worth more than his destruction. They talked for 2 hours. Harper shared her story, not all of it, just enough. The warning label, the cautionary tale of a woman who spent 20 years preparing revenge and then didn't know who she was when it was done. Did you regret it? Emily asked. Destroying him? No, the truth mattered. Justice mattered. But I regret that I let it consume me, that I let him define me even in absence, that I built weapons when I could have built a life. But you did build a life. You're successful. You're strong. I built a war machine. Very different from a life. Emily left with homework, not financial planning, self-planning. Figure out 3 things she wanted that had nothing to do with her ex. 3 dreams that were just hers. 3 reasons to wake up that weren't about proving anyone wrong. After she left, Harper sat in the coffee shop, thinking, processing. She had just given advice she needed to hear herself. The irony was crushing but also clarifying. She pulled out her phone, made a call. Caldwell and Morrison, how may I direct your call? This is Harper Westfield. I'd like to speak with Ms. Caldwell about transitioning to part-time consulting. I have some ideas about a fraud detection division, but I need time to teach and write and figure out what I want beyond revenge. The call transferred. Her boss answered. They talked. It was easier than Harper expected. Flexibility, consulting, teaching at a local college, building something new while keeping what worked. Progress. Slow, uncertain, but real. Harper drove back to her mother's house, the leaves falling, the season changing. Everything in flux. Catherine was cooking dinner. Pasta, garlic bread, the kind of meal that says love without needing words. How did it go? She asked. I think I just started building a life. How does it feel? Terrifying and good, and like I'm finally letting that 7-year-old girl rest. Catherine hugged her, tight, fierce, the way mothers do when they're proud. She deserves rest. You both do. That night, Harper slept, really slept. No nightmares, no revenge plans running through her head, no evidence files to review, no enemies to track, just sleep, just rest, just the beginning of whatever came next. Boring, peaceful, necessary, and maybe finally, enough. 6 months after the wedding, spring in Connecticut, Harper had an office now, small, above a bookstore in the town center. She taught financial literacy at the community college, consulted on fraud cases for Natalie's firm, wrote articles about corporate accountability. Not boring, different, purposeful, hers. The phone rang. Emily, the client from 3 months ago. I got the promotion, and I realized halfway through celebrating that I didn't once think about him. I didn't imagine him seeing my success. I didn't care if he knew. I was just happy. For me. Because I wanted the promotion. Not because it proved anything to anyone else. Harper smiled. That's the goal. When success is just success, not revenge, not proof, just choosing what you want and getting it. Thank you for teaching me that. Thank you for reminding me. They hung up. Harper looked around her office, modest, nothing like her Manhattan corner view, but hers, built on purpose instead of rage, built on healing instead of destruction. Owen called next. He did this now, called every few days, building the relationship they never had. I got accepted to the psychology PhD program. I'm specializing in family trauma, generational patterns. I want to help people understand how violence echoes, how to break cycles. I'm proud of you. You inspired this. You broke the cycle. Dad was violent. His father was probably violent. It just keeps going until someone decides to stop it. You stopped it. We stopped it together. Yeah, we did. That afternoon, Harper met her mother for lunch. Their weekly ritual. Just two women who survived, who built something new, who chose peace over perfect justice. Richard's trial starts next week, Catherine said. Are you going? No, I said what I needed to say. The legal system can handle the rest. I don't need to watch. That's growth. Or exhaustion. Both. It can be both. They ate, talked about normal things, garden plans, book recommendations, Catherine's upcoming vacation with Graham, the mundane beauty of a life no longer defined by trauma. Do you forgive him? Catherine asked. Your father? Harper thought about the letter, the apology, the acknowledgement. I don't know. Forgiveness feels like giving him something he doesn't deserve. But I'm not angry anymore. Not the way I was. I'm just done. He's a stranger who hurt people I love. I don't waste energy hating strangers. That's forgiveness, just not the Hallmark version. Maybe. That evening, Harper went to her planning room. Not in her apartment anymore. She had sold that place. Too many memories, too much obsession compressed into square footage. But she kept one box, labeled before. Inside was the family photo, 4-year-old Harper on her father's shoulders. Everyone smiling. Before the crack, before the blood, before the world broke. She looked at it sometimes, not with rage, not with longing, just with acknowledgement. This happened. This was real. This was before and now was after. Different, scarred, but hers. Harper's new client arrived. Young woman, 26, nervous. Thank you for seeing me. I don't know where to start. Start wherever it hurts most. The woman cried, told her story, financial abuse, stolen credit, ruined reputation. The same story, different details. The pattern repeating. Harper listened, took notes, planned help, not revenge, not destruction, just practical steps. How to rebuild credit, how to report fraud, how to protect yourself legally, how to move forward. This won't fix everything fast, Harper warned. Recovery is slow, boring. It doesn't feel like justice. It just feels like work. I don't want justice. I want my life back. Then that's what we'll build. Your life, not your revenge, not your proof, just your life. After the client left, Harper sat in her office, the sun setting, the bookstore below closing for the day, the smell of old books and coffee drifting up. She had spent 20 years preparing to destroy Richard Westfield, 3 months actually doing it, 6 months learning to exist after. And now she helped other people do it differently, do it better, do it without losing themselves in the process. Not the career she planned at 18, not the life she imagined at 7, but good, real, useful. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a second, her heart raced. Old instincts, old fears. But it was just spam, just the normal harassment of modern life. Nothing sinister. She deleted it, breathed, reminded herself that not everything is a threat. Not everything requires weapons. Not everything needs solving with rage. That night, Harper wrote, not an article, not research, just thoughts. processing, the way some people journal. They tell you revenge is a dish best served cold. They don't tell you that after you serve it, you still have to figure out how to feed yourself. That's the part that matters. Not the revenge, the after. The rest of your life that you spent 20 years not living because you were too busy preparing to take someone else's. I got my revenge. Now I get my life. That's the real victory. She saved it. Not sure if she'd ever publish it. But writing it felt good. Felt like closing a door. Not locking it, just closing. Choosing to focus on the room she's in instead of the one she left. Sunday, Harper drove to the Westfield estate. Not inside, just past it. The house was empty now, for sale. Richard in prison awaiting trial. Valerie gone. Diana too old to maintain it. Just an empty house. Just walls and memory. Just the place where everything broke and also where everything began. Harper didn't stop, didn't stare, just drove past, acknowledged it, moved on. Because that's what healing looks like. Not dramatic, not satisfying, just the slow, boring work of choosing what hurts less today than yesterday. Choosing to build instead of destroy. Choosing to help instead of hurt. Choosing to live instead of prepare to die gloriously in battle. Monday morning, Harper taught her class. Financial literacy for single mothers. 20 women rebuilding after divorce, after abuse, after poverty. She didn't tell them her story, didn't need to. Just taught them how to read bank statements, how to build credit, how to protect assets, how to spot fraud. Boring, technical, practical. But after class, a woman stayed behind. Thank you. I've been afraid of money since my ex controlled everything. You made it feel manageable. That's the goal. Money is just math. You can learn math. You can take back control. Did you have to take back control? Harper paused, then nodded. In a different way. But yes, I know what it's like to feel powerless. To spend years building strength, to finally use it. The power is good. Just make sure you use it for building, not just destroying. The woman nodded, left, her shoulders straighter, her face less afraid. That was victory. Not dramatic, not viral. Just one person less afraid. Just one woman taking back control. Just the small, boring work of healing spreading outward. Harper drove home. Connecticut traffic, normal life. No mansions, no revenge, no trauma defining every moment. Just her, just Harper. Just the rest of her life stretching out, unwritten, unplanned, hers. She had destroyed her father, gotten justice, made the truth visible. All of that mattered. All of that was necessary. But this mattered more. The after, the building, the choosing to live instead of just surviving. The 7-year-old girl in the hallway could finally rest. The 27-year-old woman standing in a bookstore office could finally breathe. Justice wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The clearing away of debris, the making space for something new. And Harper, for the first time in 20 years, was ready to build it. Not perfect, not painless, not without scars, but hers. Finally, completely hers. And that was everything. If Harper's story made you feel something, I'd love to know what. Drop a comment below. Did she go too far or not far enough? Was this justice or just revenge? Your perspective matters. And if you stayed all the way to the end of this 90-minute journey, thank you. That means something. If this story resonated with you, if you know someone who needs to hear it, share it with them. Sometimes people need to know they're not alone in carrying heavy truths. Hit that like button if you believe some truths refuse to stay buried. Subscribe if you want more stories about people who refuse to stay silent. Because every week, I bring you real stories about ordinary people who did extraordinary things when pushed to their limits. Harper spent 20 years preparing for her moment. You just spent 90 minutes with her. Was it worth it? Let me know. Until next time, remember, your story matters. Your truth matters. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to let someone else write your ending. I'll see you in the next one.